voice is it? Is it your mother's voice going, you can't do that? Is it your father's voice berating you? Is it a grandfather's voice or a teacher's voice? Because I think that's really important as well. And it might be a kind voice, but all too often I find that it's not. So that might be one exercise.
And even if it's kind, they may not be words or advice that you choose to take on board, because kind doesn't necessarily mean that it aligns with you. And I think that's one of the pieces that, when I think of the components that you and I have often spoken about that are under this umbrella of the both and, like you don't have to choose either or. A voice could be kind and you could say, no, I don't feel that there's tension around money or whatever. But it's like, without the consciousness and some of those pieces that you've laid out, we could be just quite laid back about things where maybe we actually needed a bit more of a kick in the pants on that one, or some structure, or to be conscious and, as you said, decide where am I even wanting to go when it comes to money as that tool to get there.
I have a very kind voice that says to me every day, oh, Mel, you don't need to go work out, maybe later today. And then later that day it goes, oh, Mel, this has been a hard day. Let's just sit on the couch and watch Housewives. It's a kind voice.
There's some chocolate frogs over there calling.
Chocolate frogs. It's a very kind voice. It doesn't mean that it's a voice that's helpful to me.
May not be wise. Yeah.
And that's where it's really important to differentiate. There's lots of different things that we actually look at inside the course. But the other thing is to question your money story, because a lot of us grew up with money stories, whether that's from your parents or peers or society or your culture. It might be around the role that we're supposed to play in a household. It might be around who is supposed to take charge. It might be around the fact that in order to adult, you want to buy your own home. It might be around credit and how all debt is bad, or that women don't make great investors because they're too scatty, or all women spend. So many different voices and articles and so much more. And it's really important to hear them and to ask the question, are those money stories serving me, or are they sabotaging me? Are they helping me or hindering me? And then if they're helping me, how can I amplify that? If it's hindering me, how can I lower the tone, lower the voice? One money story is Jackie Lewis, who is the Doyle's Food Group daughter. Jackie said, when I was interviewing her, she said, look, her dad was a chef and her money story was that you only got ahead if you work hard, but not just work hard, you got to work till your eyes bleed. She didn't invest. She just worked really, really, really hard, and she ended up burning out because it's unsustainable. And so you might have a money story. You go, how is having a money story that hard work will get you there is bad? Yet Jackie's an example of when it just doesn't align. My husband had a very similar one where he's all about hard work, but he then left all the investing. And when I met him, had a lot of cash in the bank, but no assets necessarily other than the business he was in partnership with. Because it's that thing around, is that serving you or sabotaging you? And yes, it might be serving you in one aspect, but is it serving you across all aspects of your finances?
Yeah, so important. If we take that kind of aspect around financials and money, often people choose to kind of block their ears, close their eyes and avoid these things.
Yeah.
If we think about a business owner or a business leader in particular, are there certain aspects around their financials or the stories about money that you would love for business owners to really focus on or master, that you think are a bit of a leverage piece?
Oh my gosh, so much. I think there needs to be two different sides. One is got to be your language and how you speak about it. So if we talk about women business owners, whether it's C-suite or whether it's a business owner, language, I find that it's two very different ways of speaking when you speak to men and women. So I've never heard a man describe their business as just, as a home-based business, or as their baby. 3 words I've never heard a bloke describe their business as. Yet I hear women every single day describe their business as that. And yes, it may be a home-based business, but why can't it be the most profitable one that it can be? And to diminish using words like just or baby, you may need to give your business a good shake. You may need to sell it. You may need to make decisions that could put it at risk. You're not going to do that if you're calling your business your baby. So I think language is really important. But the other side is to really understand the numbers behind the business. It's one thing to be great at what you do. It's another thing to run a great business. And there's this misnomer that women aren't good at the numbers, or I'm a creative, therefore I'm not good at the numbers. That's absolutely not the case. I've seen women across all different types of businesses are extraordinary at it. They don't need to be accountants. They don't need to know every single number in their business. They just usually need to know the 5 or so numbers that absolutely relate to them and have a good bookkeeper, etc., that is feeding them the rest of the info. But if you are not concentrating on the numbers, if you are not geeking out on business and deciding to not just be good at what you do, but actually be great at business, then you may end up having issues with cash flow. You might not be as profitable as you could be, etc. And for me, why would you put all that stress and time into it if it's not going to be as successful and profitable as it can be?
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. I could talk to you all day, Mel, but we'll kind of start to bring it home a bit. So when we think about these aspects of each of us, particularly from the position of someone who's running a business, we're working really hard. Like you said, we've got all these stories and pieces that are playing out for us. But ultimately, there is this desire to experience the aspects of, everyone calls it different things, but, for me, I talk about freedom and fulfillment.
Yes.
And wanting to see that play out for you. I'd love to know, what do you love most about the life that you've been able to design and that you're living now because of the journey you've been on and the decisions you've made in how you're running your business today?
Oh my gosh, so many things. So I think part of it is, if we look at my personal life, I absolutely thought at age 16 to 18 that I would get married, first child at 28, second child at 30 to 33. Like, it's simply what I saw. And when I divorced my first husband, can't even say it, I reassessed everything and realized I didn't want kids. I just am not built that way. And it has meant I have an incredibly fractured relationship with my parents now because they don't know how to relate to me without children. So what it's given me is, A, the courage to make decisions, not just in my business, but personally, to actually ask the question, what do I want? And then beyond that, well, what does it look like? Like, what could my life look like? And for me, it's meant spending part of my week in the city, part of my week in the mountains. We're now getting to the point now that the world's open again where we want to start spending more and more time overseas. But that's only possible because of the financial choices that I've made. And for me, having financial choice means that, A, I'm firmly unemployable. If someone was to offer me a job tomorrow with an extraordinary salary, I just couldn't take it. The idea of someone telling me what to do, when to turn up and when to work would just be horrible.
And when you could have holidays.
When I could have holidays.
To go overseas.
Couldn't deal with it. So for me, it's about having choice. Choice both in my personal life around what my life looks like, but also choice in my working life around what that looks like. And I have the choice today to work or not. And because my husband wants to keep working, it meant that I needed to sit down and go, okay, do I just want to phone it in for a few days a week and have a great life and still have impact, still feel like I'm making a difference? Or do I actually want to kind of kick it up a few notches and decide, what could this really be? What impact could I really make? And how much could I really give back, both in dollars and in knowledge? But what I love most is that was a choice.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel that compunction that I have to. And I think that I believe that means that I will achieve it far quicker than perhaps I would have when I was running my accounting firm, because that was a necessity versus this isn't. And I think that's part of the privilege of being in the position that I am. But that's because I'm a Western suburb chick that didn't come from money. It came from making those decisions along the way to make sure that I was financially independent.
And I think, Mel, it's important to add into that the part of your story around, because someone might be listening and then think, well, that's lovely, but you've had 3 businesses, decades to build that up.
Yes.
It's important to add in that there was a very significant shift that occurred for you when you did get divorced.
Yeah.
That meant you not only went back to zero, but you were in the minuses because you had payroll and a business to operate.
Yep.
So maybe just briefly, if you can weave that piece in, because I think it's important for people not to then think they have an excuse.
Definitely not. So at age 33, when I divorced my husband, he's a good bloke, but he had a throwaway line where he said to me, during the proceedings, you're not going to make it on your own. So I took the entire divorce settlement and then cleared out all my bank accounts, personal bank account, business bank account, and gave it all to Opportunity International, set up a trust bank. And then I tell the story that I wanted to ring them the next day to say, can I have some of that back? Because it meant it probably took about 2 to 3 years where I had to live for a year in a frat house with 5 friends. And that sounds fun until my room was a basement room that barely fit a double bed in with mold on the ceiling. So whilst it was a party house, that's not where I expected to be at age 34. But it meant that I had to start where I had to go into debt for wages. I had to go into debt for cash flow. And I moved into a tiny, tiny house in the Blue Mountains because that's all I could afford. And it really put me back financially. But it also made me realize, oh my gosh, if I'm now in my mid-30s, making these decisions, but yet I know how to get out of this. I know how to build wealth. What do women who don't know how to build wealth, how do they get out of it? And I look at Lauren, who works with me today. She's in her late 30s. She is in a far better position than I ever was at that age because she didn't start from that minus position that I had. Yet, interestingly, we had a good friend where her husband unexpectedly left her about 12 months ago. And Lawsy and I both looked at our financial position and went, we're good if we don't split. But if we split, we need more.
Yes, to maintain those choices and lifestyle.
Yeah. So we both went back and went, we don't believe we're ever going to split, but I think it makes the relationship healthier and makes you feel more comfortable in it.
I agree.
Because you know that no matter what, you're both going to be okay. So we've both gone back and done that as well. And we're both in the process of building wealth so that if something was to happen, we now have extraordinary choice. But you're right, it's not from decades and decades.
I just think that's a really important piece.
Yeah, I agree.
Because people can otherwise listen to something that they're not connected to and think, well, that's lovely for you.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. So I just think that's important.
Definitely.
And it's a lovely piece then to flow into if people are wanting to learn more, connect with you, work with you, all of those pieces that you have learned and built up and are now sharing. Can you tell us about what's coming up for you? Is there another round of the course? Where are things up to?
Yeah, so I looked and I couldn't find anything out there because financial advice is expensive. We were having to charge about $3,000 because of best interest duty. So that's kind of the minimum that you can charge. And what I know is that if you don't have assets or if you're just wanting to get started or if you've come out of divorce or even if you're in a great position, you might go, ugh, I just don't feel comfortable spending that. So for me, it was teach someone to fish rather than fish for them. So I looked around and I couldn't see one there. So I created a course where you create your own financial strategy. So both mindset through to where are you now? Where do you want to go? And what will it take to get there? So your own financial plan. We're tweaking it at the moment and we've just putting a whole lot of calculators and everything on our site so that you can really answer the question, how much is enough, both from an income and an asset position. And then we teach you about investing, shares, property, business, as well as things like ethical investing and money in a relationship and kids and money and more. So it's this really holistic, it's not scary because you get it in bite-sized chunks and you get to ask questions all the way through. But it's kind of that financial education that you never got at school or that you didn't get from your parents and that you're having to play catch up with now.
Yeah. I think it was 2 Christmases ago now, gave it to my stepdaughter for Christmas for that exact reason of learn this when you're young, not don't wait. And so what's the best way for people to get in touch with you then? Is it Instagram? Is it through your website?
Yeah, so come play with me at Insta at More Money for Shoes and you can get a feel for me. We'll give you a link that your listeners can come to where they can have a look at, they can jump on the wait list for the next round. We've given you a free resource around 50 plus ways to find 10K and a couple of other things.
Great.
so that you can play. But yeah, the website, which is melissabrown.com.au. I'm a fancy Brown with an E on my name, or Insta at More Money for Shoes.
So we'll include the links there, but I think that regardless of whether it's for you, for your kids, or wherever it is, there will be benefit in following Mel, listening to what she has to say, and potentially jumping into the course. So thank you so much, Mel. Really appreciate it. Is there anything that I've missed or that you're keen to kind of share as we wrap up?
I think it's just being aware that we carry messages, we carry myths around with us. And unless we extract them and have a look at them, we'll never know. You know, I talk a lot about the piggy bank, where people don't realize why a pig. And it was actually a mistake back in the 16th century where a merchant sent info across to the factory. The pig actually described the clay. The factory owner created a whole lot of pig-shaped objects. Merchant was horrified, but oh, well, it's got to go to market anyway. And that's why we have a piggy bank, from a mistake. And so many of us are carrying these myths around with us that we believe are truths, either with our own ability to handle money or how we think we should behave with money. And I think it's time to start pulling those out, identifying them, and asking the question, what do I actually want?
So true. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mel. And hopefully people have found it helpful and can get in touch with you following listening to the episode.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to Both And with Bessi Graham. You know you were born to do something significant, so don't leave it to chance. Join me each week to pick up quick tips and ideas that will support you on your journey to live and lead a meaningful life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show so that you never miss an episode, and leave us a review so that other people can find us and feel a little less lonely and a little more supported on their journey of leadership. If you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, you'll find the link in the episode notes. Please join us. Thank you so much for being a part of the community and for tuning into the show each week. See you next time. Cheers.